Welcome. Read A Course in Miracles along with us in our home-style text class. For information about our live workbook classes, email us and check out our website for more course support, including retreats at the Little Garden in Sedona.
So what are we doing today?
Today we're doing Chapter 13, Finding the Present, Section 6. And we're in this version of A Course in Miracles.
So this section is a perfect example of how theory and practice are never very far away. And, it's talking about the awareness of reality, like the Course is saying, this isn't real, this is real. But what gets us the ability to look over that is these very practical understandings of how are you using time, and that we can see. We can see if we're stuck in the past with regrets or whatever, and we can see if we have anxiety about the future, and that we can get a hold of.
Right.
So that was
Okay.
one thing to think about here.
Finding the present.
Finding the present.
Okay. Well, let's see. Connie, could you start, please?
Sure. Finding the present. To perceive truly is to be aware of all reality through the awareness of your own. To perceive truly is to be aware of all reality through the awareness of your own.
Your own reality.
Right. But for this, no illusions can rise to meet your sight, for reality leaves no room for any error. This means that you perceive a brother only as you see him now. And by that, I take it means his true, who he really is.
Right.
Not the rabbit that we're seeing in front of us. Okay.
Right.
His past has no reality in the present, so you cannot see it. Your past reactions to him are also not there. And if it is to them that you react, you see but an image of him that you made and cherished instead of him. In your questioning of illusions, ask yourself if it is really sane to perceive what was as now. If you remember the past, as you look upon your brother, you will be unable to perceive the reality that is now. Well, I've been mulling over the possibility of contacting my brother, to whom I haven't spoken for a year. And now he lives right in Tucson. And I think this is a message to me. I really need to just let go of everything and contact him. Wow. This is just for me.
All right.
See him as he truly is, not as he visually appears or as I have perceived him in the past.
Right.
But truly as he is.
The one point I want to make out here is that in that first sentence, it's talking about lowercase. So as he really is the reality, the knowledge of who he is. But this section is focusing on the ability of that person to shine the light on your awareness of your own self. So it's not just the knowledge reality, it's how we perceive them here in a loving way. Right. And through the light. So that's a really key, because otherwise, if it's just knowledge, then our ability to forgive, well, we have to have the true knowledge, but this is emphasizing that it's like lowercase, the reality, how things seem here, how they seem to you, and how you can perceive them through light and miracles.
Yes, I have a comment on that, Connie. I have a similar type situation, not a brother, but a family member. and it's timely that this is coming up because I've been thinking a lot about it. I can perceive that the divinity of this relative,
Mhm.
but the animosity is coming from the other way.
Hmm.
And I kind of come, and maybe this is wrong, I'd like to discuss it, that what he thinks of me is none of my business.
Right.
You know, I'm extending him spiritual love and pray for him all the time, but I don't know that I feel obligated to reach out to him. I'm looking for insight, actually, is what I'm doing. So that's the way I'm seeing it now. I am doing my work, but there's been no response and nothing that's been mitigated on the other side.
But remember in the lesson, it can be but my gratitude I earn is we have to put in our awareness that there is a part of their mind that does receive the love and light. If you don't see it on the conscious level, that's okay. Just this understand, because what this is trying to show us in this section is the oneness of Christ is such that your mind can have an effect on theirs. You can shine a light on them, and they can shine a light to you.
And you don't have to see it happen right now. It
Right.
was in that lesson. And it's also in the manual for teachers. You find your reality, the Christ in you, the unconditional love in you, and you see it in them, or you ask to see it in them, and you're done. You don't have to have continual contact with that person. That's guidance. So like what Connie just said, it sounded like she got guidance to have contact with a person she was estranged from. But you do not need, I don't know if it's in this book or if it's in the original notes, the complete and annotated version. But it tells us that we shouldn't throw pearls before swine. Offer the miracles where you're guided to do so. And don't waste your time trying to get the other person to respond in the way that you think they should. You just do your own inner work, and that will extend. Does that help?
See, this came up when I was in Minnesota and seeing old friends in that. Most people have the belief that unless you're physically present with somebody, that's the only way that you can have this interaction.
Mm-hmm.
But if this course is right, and we live on a spiritual and mental level, physicality, having them physically present,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be there. That's why I can forgive my stepfather, who's
Mm-hmm.
no longer alive, and know that that works.
Right.
But now in the case of Connie, she's getting guidance that says, well, let's use this physical means,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And to Dale's point, there may be hate coming from how we see these persons here, but this section is going to say, relate to the Christ in them, and they will shine a light back to you. It may not be on this conscious level.
And it may not be physically seen.
Right.
Right. But so I know from an experience where I had a person attacking me constantly, really crazy. And when I finally got to a place of really not reacting, not from suppressing it, but from recognizing I don't want that. I don't deserve that. That's not what I want to experience in my life because I love myself. I was able to see her and be with her in a completely different way. And I moved out of the relationship. Now the relationship came back on a completely different level. And we're good friends now. It was like a temporary insanity, I think.
Eric, do you want to weigh in on this?
Well, I just, there was a process for me. I went through all sorts of guilt in our sections on guilt that we went through. I got to thinking about that in relationship to this, and I decided to let go of that guilt. And when I made that decision, the idea of just extending the love and forgiving myself and forgiving him came to me. And so it was a process. It didn't happen all at once. It took some time to do, but it feels good. And I'm asking for other guidance on what I need to do. But right now, I'm just sit still and do your work.
There you go.
That's great. Did you have any thoughts you'd like to share on this, Eric?
I mean, I've not got anybody who I think is attacking me really, but there's a couple of people who sort of blanked me. One of them's like a really old school friend, and I've not seen him for like 25 years. And whenever I send him any messages or anything, there's no response, you know. And then a few weeks ago, he contacted me and said, "Can you give me a reference for this job?" And I was like, it was quite strange because there was no "Hi, how you doing?" and, you know, like anything. There's nothing really sort of, no please or thank yous or anything. It was just like, "Will you give me a reference?" And every time I responded to him, there was no niceties at all. It was really interesting. Yeah, and there's another person as well who's just like stopped responding to me and like gone, you know. So that's quite interesting. But as you said, it doesn't mean you don't stop thinking about them in a positive way.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be any sort of feeling of attack from my own point. It can be, okay, so they're not ready to engage for some reason. And how do I know what that is?
Right.
Don't know what they're going through really.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Then you could be at peace.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where we learn the course, is in these interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, and it's putting the material to use.
Yeah.
Not just learning it, but internalizing it, living it. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's going to go on to say it seems natural to reference the past, but he's going to talk about that. So.
Okay. Dale, would you read that paragraph, please? That's 2.
There we go. 2, you consider it natural to use your past experience as a reference point from which to judge the present. Well, that's just the way we're raised. I mean, that's just what we do ever since I can remember. That this is so radically different in the way it's presented.
Absolutely.
Yet this is unnatural because it is delusional. Well, that's a big statement too. And I might add, I don't even know how to say this. I had an experience this last week of a glimpse of the illusion that we're seeing. And it's very hard to describe. It was almost like looking through a veil that you could see through.
Right.
And it didn't last very long. Okay, what was that all about?
Great.
Okay, well, what are you telling me? But it was a wonderful experience to kind of see this delusion because behind it was nothing but just good stuff. But looking at it through the human eyes and what this just describes is not that at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That's
kind
great.
of when you have learned to look on everyone with no reference at all to the past, either his or yours as you perceived it, you'll be able to learn from what you see now. For the past can cast no shadow to darken the present unless you are afraid of light. Man, you know, I have to admit there have been times that I really didn't want, and it's not a conscious thing. I didn't want to see the truth because it scared me. And I think that's some old learning that unless you fall in line, you're going to be punished. And it's easier to stay in ignorance sometimes.
And pain.
Familiar pain.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good way to say it. And only if you are and only if you or would you choose to bring darkness with you. And by holding it in your mind, see it as a dark cloud that shrouds your brothers and conceals their reality from your sight. To me, this whole thing is just, the sentence is just training our minds to see everything differently. And it's making a conscious decision that, okay, this is what I've always seen and been learned in the past. I'm going to do something different this time. I'm going to try at least. And there's a lot of failure involved in terms of making the decision or trying to see things differently. At least there has been for me. But over time, it's like anything you do, you get better at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me make a couple comments here. When he's saying in sentence 2, he's saying it's not just that it's wrong, it's unnatural and it's delusional.
It's delusional to use the past as a reference point from which to judge the
So that's a bigger claim than it's wrong. And then this idea in 4, the idea of being afraid of light. Now, light in the Course can be some very huge spiritual experience of, like, people get in conversion experience, like I'm spirit or something. But it can also mean understanding.
Oh, yeah.
And the darkness is always in the mind about making two things that are complete opposite try to both be true. Best example, I'm trying to get my innocence by making somebody else guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm holding both innocence and guilt in the mind, and that's the darkness. And that's why I can't see understanding in there. Or I'm holding both love and fear as both having important information for me.
Right.
That's the darkness in the mind.
Right.
So light is falling on one side. We're both innocent.
Mm-hmm.
We're both worthy of love and calling for love.
Mm-hmm.
But we can be afraid of that. Like you say, there's tremendous resistance to that. It's like familiar pain.
And this is putting in interpersonal terms what we saw in 13:3, fear of redemption. Remember, it was like there's the layers of guilt. We don't want to go deeper. We don't want to look at the darkness inside because we're afraid of the light.
Right.
Now it's putting that in interpersonal terms.
And it's also saying this idea that we're afraid of the darkness is just a cover, because what we're really afraid of is
the light.
Love.
Yeah. Okay, Eric, could you read 3, please? Give us your thoughts.
Okay. This darkness is in you. The Christ has revealed to you now has no past, for he is changeless. And in his changelessness lies your release. For if he is as he was created, there is no guilt in him. No cloud of guilt has risen to obscure him, and he stands revealed in everyone you meet, because you see him through himself. To be born again is to let the past go and look without condemnation upon the present. The cloud that obscures God's Son to you is the past. And if you would have it past and gone, you must not see it now. If you see it now in your illusions, it has not gone from you, although it is not there. So it's saying, let the past go and look without condemnation upon the present. So that seems to be the same as placing the future in the hands of God.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As you were reading it, I was thinking how sometimes you might see a person or even think of a person and kind of like tighten up, get defensive. What I'm doing when I do that is I'm holding the past against the present. I'm expecting the same thing from the past to happen here now.
Or, like he said, it's not just their past, it's yours. So you can say in some situation,
Mhm.
I've always had trouble with X.
Right,
I'm always going to have trouble with X, but then we're not open to the miracle.
right.
Now, the sixth lesson to the 10th is I'm upset because I'm seeing what's not there. I see only the past. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see nothing as it is now. My thoughts are meaningless.
Mhm.
So this idea of getting a hold of a different sense of time
Mhm.
is really how this theory of the Course becomes real to us through this practical way to look at time differently.
Yeah. And I think this
And we
is,
can do that.
I think this is already the third section where it's emphasized our thinking about time. Well, Dale, could you read 4, please?
Okay. Time can release as well as imprison, depending on whose interpretation of it you use. Past, present, and future are not continuous unless you force continuity on them. You can perceive them as continuous and make them so for you, but do not be deceived and then believe that this is how it is. Past, present, and future are not continuous. Oh, okay. All right. That's just another way of saying I don't live in the past.
Yeah.
Okay. For to believe reality is what you have, would have it be according to your use, for it is delusional. You would destroy time's continuity by breaking it into past, present, and future for your own purposes. You would anticipate the future on the basis of your past experience and plan for it accordingly. Yet by doing so, you are aligning past and future and not allowing the miracle, which can intervene between them to free you to be born again. Oh, that's really profound stuff. It's really simple when you think about it, but it's really profound. And the execution of it's the thing that's profound to me.
Mhm.
Really making the decision to just, okay, and this, I've got a situation that's in front of me right now. How am I going to see it?
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just, that's really not a hard thing to do. Just decide how but all the other chatter starts coming in.
Yeah.
Don't do that. No, that's wrong. What if you're wrong? Somebody's going to laugh at you. You're going to be hurt. You're being a sucker. I mean, my mind just goes nuts when I'm presented with these opportunities, which are pretty much all the time. Moment to moment, sometimes we have those kind of decisions to make. But it's really a simple idea in its essence.
Yeah.
Very simple.
And I'm thinking also about how at the very beginning it says to perceive truly is to be aware of all reality through the awareness of your own reality. So it's like, if I can approach a situation where I've got a lot of past thoughts that are tempting me to go there and bring them into the present, I can say, I am the holy child of God. And so is that one. So is that other person.
Yeah.
And then it's like it cuts out all that past. That's just a practice or a technique.
Yeah.
But the whole workbook is full of techniques to bring us into the present.
Right. So let's look at that first sentence.
The
And
darkness is in you.
I'm talking about 4:1.
Oh, time can release as well as imprison.
Right. So this is how the Course shows us how powerful our decisions are, because we make a lot of decisions in the day of what to do, where to go, all that. But when we break it down to something that's binary and something simply understood, do I want to be imprisoned or do I want to be released? When we understand it's a decision between two things like that and something we really want, then we see how powerful our decisions are.
Right.
Because that's what the Course is always saying. Your remaining power, having denied that you're a creator, your remaining power is the freedom to make another choice
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when their choices are something so simple as this,
Right.
will I be imprisoned? Will I continue to imprison myself, or will I release myself?
Right. Okay.
I like that last sentence. It's almost like defining the miracle as something that breaks apart the past and the future.
Yeah. Right.
Which is a miracle, isn't it? Because that's the only way that we can break the past and the future is by a miracle. Because otherwise we're programmed, as Dale was saying, to just look to the past, and that tells us where we're going, and we automatically do that, don't we?
Right.
So the miracle is somehow breaking that pattern.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great way to say it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And just what you said there would be really helpful as a study to go to the miracle principles and look at all the references to time.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Well, whose turn is it? Maybe Connie's.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it is mine. The miracle enables you to see your brother without his past, and so you perceive him as born again. There again, there's no time. I'm not, yeah, okay. His errors are all past, and by perceiving him without them, you are releasing him. And since his past is yours, you share in this release. Let no dark cloud out of your past obscure him from you, for truth lies only in the present, and you will find it if you seek it there. You have looked for it where it is not, and therefore have not found it. Learn then to seek it where it is, and it will dawn on eyes that see. Your past was made in anger, and if you use it to attack the present, you will not see the freedom that the present holds. Well, that for me brings that concept of it's only in the present moment that there is peace and connection and love, because the past interferes with all that. And
Right.
yeah, and in reality, it's I don't want to say struggle, but it's a challenge sometimes to stay in the present moment and not have the past influence me.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is there is no time. So all there is the present moment.
Yeah, that's the truth of it. I mean, even if you just look at it in a scientific way, the past is a memory. It's not here.
Right. And it's constantly reinforced.
Yeah.
Right.
In my brain, the past is what is wanting to be reinforced unless I stay in the present and reinforce that.
Right.
Reinforce being in the present.
Robert Perry once, when we were studying with him, said another way to think of eternity is as always. It's always there, our ability to use love instead of the fear.
Mm-hmm.
Notice the reference to anger in sentence 7. So at the message of the crucifixion, he's saying it's easy to see the connection between anger and attack. It's not so easy to see the relationship between fear and attack. But that's really behind the anger. Like the fear is lack of love, lack of my ability to deal with the situation, lack of that. And so if I can see that the anger is just this maladaptive strategy to work with this lack of love and see that it's fear, then I can let go of that anger a lot easier, because it's really fear. Will I be enough? Is love still true here? That kind of idea.
Whose turn is it next?
Deals.
Dale's. Okay.
I think it's Eric, but I'll be glad to do it. Which one are we on?
6.
6.
6. Judgment and condemnation are behind you, and unless you bring them with you, you will see that you are free of them. Again, it's conscious choice. What are you going to do?
Mhm.
Look lovingly upon the present, for it holds the only things that are forever true. All healing lies within it because its continuity is real. It extends to all aspects of the sonship at the same time and thus enables them to reach each other. The present is before time was and will be when time is no more. Wow, what a sentence. I've never thought of it that way. It's the same thing you were saying, Jan, just a minute ago. Yeah, that's really, really profound. In it are all things that are eternal, and they are one. Their continuity is timeless, and their communication is unbroken, for they are not separated by the past. Only the past can separate, and it is nowhere. Well, he just keeps saying the same thing in different ways over and over, basically. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the same thing, just stay in the present.
Mhm. I think it's interesting, sentence 4. It, healing, extends to all aspects of the sonship. That means to everyone at the same time, and enables us to reach each other. It's like there's the level of separation where we seem to be individual beings, and the past is important, and that whole story of separation. And then below that, the present, the Christ mind, healing.
Yep.
Everyone is connected. It enables them to reach one another.
Yep.
And only the past can separate.
That's
Isn't
a
that
huge
interesting?
claim, isn't it?
Yeah.
And,
Oh.
there's no past. Even when you're thinking of the past, you're doing it in the present.
You know what's interesting? My memories are different from your memories, even if we were at the same place at the same time,
Right. Right.
So how could they be true in the sense of, ultimate truth? There's no chance.
Yeah.
If they're different, they're just not ultimate truth. So all that memory stuff is just another, and what we're doing all the time is trying to make sure that you remember the same thing I do in the same way. So we talk about that situation or that person, and we try to get in sync with one another in terms of our memories. We try to find oneness in the past. It's not going to be found there.
No.
Only the past can separate.
It's nowhere. Remember, we accessed in chapter 8 this idea that part-whole relationships only exist in perception, not in knowledge. I mean, the idea of part and wholes is only true here because for perception or judgment, you need a perceiver in that which is perceived. Right? So and that's how we think, part-whole relationships, but they're not real.
Yeah. All aspects of the sonship can reach each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's.
I mean, that's a lot of those practices in part 1 is this realization that when we're offering miracles, even if it's just to one person or it's going to the whole sonship.
Right.
Like he said, the Holy Spirit takes your thoughts and knows within creation who's ready to hear them.
Right.
And having given those thoughts to him, they are given back, and then they're given back to you tenfold.
That is such a big idea, Timothy. I mean, what you just said. I mean, I was listening to you thinking, wow, what a big idea. When you think that I'm talking about me or an individual, that you really don't have any power to affect anything.
Yeah.
At least, obviously, you don't. But that's such a big idea and such a transition in the way you see the world.
Yeah, it really is.
It's only obvious from our past learning that we're powerless. And what this is teaching us is that we have dominion over all things. Amazingly. And we do it by letting go of what appears to be real and going to what is real, the spirit that we are, the emanation of God that we are. And from there, everything looks different.
You know, it's interesting because that's how we're stepping back to our reality, because he's saying, in essence here, one of the things he's saying is you have control over all time.
Right.
You do not have to be in the past. You don't have to have regrets about the
Right.
future. Like Eric pointed out, I place the future in the hands of God, same thing.
Yeah. And it, you know, and it says there that when you do that, you've let go of the past.
And every instant then is a holy instant
Yeah.
of the present.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going into the present. Eric, thank you for reading.
The present offers you your brothers in the light that would unite you with them and free you from the past. Would you then hold the past against them? For if you do, you are choosing to remain in the darkness that is not there and refusing to accept the light that is offered you. For the light of perfect vision is freely given as it is freely received and can be accepted only without limit. In this one still dimension of time that does not change, and where there is no sight of what you were, you look at Christ and call his witnesses to shine on you because you called them forth. And they will not deny the truth in you because you looked for it in them and found it there. Is that part of the sentence 5 where it says, where there is no sight of what you were?
Yeah.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, that really struck me as you read it this time. It's like, of what you were, because we're talking about our perception of our brother here. But the only way we see darkness in our brother is that we're denying it in ourselves, right? We believe that it's there, but we want to hide it. So we project it out and see it in our brother. So when we come from the Christ in ourselves, what sentence was that now?
5.
5 halfway
Sentence
through.
5.
Yeah, and also the tail end of that sentence in italics, because you called them forth.
Yeah.
And that's an extension of a very big idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, notice there too, I mean, the typical sort of fundamental idea of what in Christian ideas, you give witness and testimony to salvation. And here it's saying you can call forth the witnesses to the reality of who you are.
So an
And
example,
let them shine on you.
in the example that I gave of someone who was attacking me crazily, it's like my job was to see the Christ in her.
Yeah.
And not to be with the craziness,
Right.
but to see the Christ in her. So when I did that, I experienced the Christ in myself.
Okay.
Right? So it's like she was a mirror. It's like the craziness. I ended up being really grateful for that whole experience because I saw that I was trying to punish myself by projecting a punisher on me. And I said, nope, that's not going to happen. That is forgiveness. Is the Christ in me sees the Christ in you.
No, that's it. Eric, was there something else that you were going to say?
It was just that first part of the first sentence, actually. The present offers you your brothers in the light. Look at that.
Yeah.
That every moment we're being offered that present that would allow us to see our brothers in the light. And the previous paragraph, first sentence, says, judgment and condemnation are behind you. Unless you bring them with you, you will see that you're free of them. So it's almost like you've got this opportunity to to see your brother in the light as he is, and yet you can drag this judgment and condemnation with you from the past that's not even really there.
Right.
You've got to deliberately drag it into your present moment when it isn't there. So it's not as if it's a natural, it uses the word natural somewhere, doesn't it? It's not natural for us to have this constant flow of ideas from the past and to judge and condemn. We've got to deliberately force it onto our mind in order to do it, because naturally we would just see everyone in light, wouldn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know the old joke of why does the guy beat his head against the wall? Because it feels so good when he stops.
Yeah.
Mm.
Let's stop.
That's weird.
Mm.
Connie is up to read though.
Okay, thank you for that.
You guys are making great comments here, pulling this stuff out.
Now, excuse me, now is the time of salvation, for now is the release from time. Reach out to all your brothers and touch them with the touch of Christ. In timeless union with them is your continuity unbroken because it is wholly shared. God's guiltless Son is only light. There is no darkness in him anywhere, for he is whole. Call all your brothers to witness into his wholeness, as I am calling you to join with me. Each voice has a part in the song of redemption, the hymn of gladness and thanksgiving for the light to the creator of light. The holy light that shines forth from God's Son is the witness that his light is of his Father.
Mm-hmm.
What this reminds me of is the first lesson. This table isn't real, this isn't real, that everything is, it's all an illusion. The past is an illusion, and the only place that is really real is what they're talking about in this paragraph, and being with my brother and in the present moment with God and Holy Spirit, and that's it.
That's it. That's right.
Sounds simple.
It's like if we're willing to look at the mirror that is the brother and see from the Christ to the Christ, we're seeing our true self, and that's the oneness that we share.
Okay.
So, if they're a loving person, if they're exhibiting loving actions and thoughts and kindness toward you, it's easier. And if they're attacking you, it's a challenge, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And when we're willing to forgive, which is to see that challenging situation as a cover for the mirror of the Christ in both of us, we're free. Both of us are free.
Yeah. To me, in sentence 7 is another example of how incredibly loving the Course is. And each voice has a part in the song of redemption. So separation, the Course says that, in fact, he says it in this chapter, separation came because you had a request to be special than everything around you. That's how your individuality arose, is that kind of, and love denied it because you're not special. But love's response was to give each one a part in this song of redemption.
Right.
And that's in chapter coming up 25, the special function. But that love responded that way to my request, make me special, make me different, make me an individual. And the Holy Spirit goes, okay, have your own part in the voice.
And each voice has a part in the song of redemption. It's like a choir,
Exactly.
right? The choir needs us all. Your voice is important in the choir. You're not a soloist. Okay.
You know, it's also, I don't know how to say this. It's like, who is, in order to see my brother as he truly is, I have to not be perceiving from who I think I am.
Right.
I have to be coming from my true self. It's like, who is it that's looking out on this world all the time? Is it
That's
my
it.
true self, or is it my ego self, or who I think I am?
Yeah.
It's kind of I don't know.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
And that's the rosy colored, if you have the yellow sunglasses on, everything's yellow, so.
Have you ever had the experience of seeing yourself, like seeing from those different eyes that you, I
Sure.
mean,
And you
being
have
in,
too.
pardon?
I'm sure you have too. I think we all have.
Yeah, it's kind of it can be a scary place sometimes.
Oh.
Yeah, it can, and because we have, it's like we have to have the faith and the trust to try something new.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll only do that when we recognize how dissatisfied we are without love, without the forgiveness. But we have to make, that's what the Course is saying, is that he gets us to do things like forgive that we could only do is if we were that one Christ.
Right.
And then we begin to infer, I must be something other than my body and my ego.
Right.
And you're correct, though. If I see myself as degraded or whatever, that's how I'm going to see
Other
others.
people.
If I see myself calling for love, I'll see them calling for love.
Right. Right. And I think the fear is just the fear of seeing. It's not when you get there. It's like we're all gonna go to Brazil. Oh no. But yes, when we get to Brazil, it's like, yay. I don't think the fear is in the recognition of who we really are.
No.
It's the fear of going there and leaving behind what we think of ourselves and other people, what we think the world is all about.
In fact, there's an exact line that says, only your anticipation is what is fearful. Because the reality should be, I should get peace.
Yeah.
I should get the sense
Peace,
of
for sure.
and love.
Yeah.
But it is, again, it's the trust, to have trust and faith that this is a better way.
So
we're on 9.
And I think that must be Dale. Is that right, Dale?
Sounds good to me.
When we start these classes, I should write initials down. I just can't get it straight.
That's good.
I know it doesn't matter.
Let's see, 9. Shine on your brothers in remembrance of your Creator, for you will remember him as you call forth the witnesses to his creation. Again, that's another big idea, that the more that we extend the love, the more we become aware of who we are.
Yeah.
What an idea. I guess it's human nature sometimes to think, well, what's in it for me? Well, there's a lot in it for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those whom you heal bear witness to your healing, for in their wholeness you will see your own. Like the situation I described when we started, I'm extending love to them and I'm at peace, but I don't see that there's bearing any witness to healing from the other side. So I must not be understanding. It must be beyond the human that the healing is done.
It's happening in you. So what you just said is, when you are in a place of peace and you extend peace or love to this other person, done. Right then, you have, in a sense, used their image to bring love to you. You've used them as a mirror to bring love to you, because You chose to love them. They may not have shown it in a physical way,
Okay.
but you did get what you offered.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. And as your hymns of praise and gladness rise to your Creator, He will return your thanks to His clear answer to your call. For it can never be that His Son called upon Him and remained unanswered. You know, that brings up a situation, at least a thought, that it seems like so many times I have said it, and I've heard other people say my prayers are not answered.
Mm.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because that's some of my old time religion still getting in there in the way. Could you give me your thoughts on that sentence?
It can never be that His Son called upon Him and remained unanswered. Well, I think it's pretty much what I just said about when you offer love to your brother, you will experience the love. When you call upon God, you do experience His presence. The problem with having our prayers not answered is that we're telling God how He should show up for us. Right? I mean,
hang on a minute with that. So if we have a problem that's unsolved, we think unless that problem, and we've defined what that problem is, we think unless that problem is solved, I can't have any peace. I can't have any sense of contentment. But what the Holy Spirit is, what the Course is saying, prayer is always answered because the question is always about who am I?
mm-hmm,
That's really the base question.
mm-hmm,
Because having separated, I'm confused about who I am.
mm-hmm.
So if on this level I understand that what the gift is this peace and contentment, not if the situation in other words, I can pray for the political situation to be different and then feel like my prayers are not answered.
Mm-hmm.
But the real issue below all of that is who am I?
Right.
And can I remember who I am? And the criteria that I've got that answer in prayer is peace.
Right.
Not because it was resolved. I'm sorry, go ahead, Dale.
No, that's very good. But I've got a situation. That's not important what it is in my life. It's been there for 15 years.
Mm.
And the idea of an unanswered prayer is I want to see that situation resolved.
In your way.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Because that was my idea of what an answered prayer was.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not an answered prayer.
Right. So Dale, let me tell you, one of the reasons I just went to Minnesota is because my son is completely lost. I mean, he really is gone. And I want so much for him to get help and to be healed, to do go to, deal with your addiction. And he may not do that. He may not do that in action and physicality, but I have to trust that I put him in God's hands and that he will remember who he is at some point.
Maybe in this life and maybe not.
Right. So as I'm looking at him and saying to myself, I'm only going to have peace if he goes into treatment. Right. I'm misstating the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He's only going to have peace if he remembers who he is. And God guarantees that. Why? Because I've offered him to God.
You know that because you've offered it to God. Yeah.
I've offered it to God, but I've also offered it from my oneself to his oneself.
Right.
And that's why I know it will work. But that has to be my faith.
So
does that help, Dale?
Yes, I'm going to have to think about this a while. But yes, I get it. So even though the situation in the physical world remains unsolved, or maybe it just has the timing isn't right, I don't know. It's the same thing. My whole job is just to stay in peace and trust.
Yeah.
And not necessarily trust that a situation will change, but well, if you're a course student, you accept that everyone eventually is going to get to heaven. Everyone eventually is going to remember and become aware that they're the Christ and let go of their ego, right? That's the basic story of the Course, that the ego and the separation cannot last. So our only job is to go there as quickly as we can for ourselves. And then it spreads out by itself. Like at the top of the page, it extends to all aspects of the sonship at the same time. It's like it goes out from you to him, raises him up to on some level, but you have experienced the peace because you've accepted it as your due.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're holding ourselves hostage to our version of what things should be. We're imprisoning ourselves with our version of how the world should look. I'll be happy when that happens.
You know, part of that too is to remember what the Course will always maintain is everybody's mind is free.
Yeah.
And it's his choice when I have to trust I've sent him the love, the miracle from the Holy Spirit in me to them. And now it's up to him when he chooses to accept it. Because his mind is free. Otherwise, I can't force him to do this and do that. I mean, that's the setup with kids, because when they're little, you do have control over their lives that you don't have as they begin to individuate.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That's helpful. I'll think about it.
Okay, good.
Let's see. For his call to you is, but you're called him, and in him you are answered by his peace. Okay. Well,
so that's God's peace. That's
yeah. Okay.
When we let go of our desire to have things different in appearance, we have peace. And that peace is the gift to the other person or people or situation.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. If we're going to finish this, it's going to go a little bit longer than usual. Is that okay with you all?
It's fine with me.
I need to leave on time today because I have another commitment.
Okay. I think we should just continue. Otherwise, we get all discombobulated. And the next section, actually, maybe we should stop at, whatever, because our next section is also very long and can kind of,
I'll tell you what, let's stop right now, because there's been a lot of good sharing within this, bringing it to our personal lives. So let's work with this section again next week. Maybe we'll review what we did and then begin on paragraph 10. Something like that.